launching the Discovery series of the book No Truth Without Beauty, God, the Qur'an, and Women's Rights, written by Leena El-Ali and beautifully forwarded by UCLA School of Law distinguished professor Khaled Abou Fadl. Jointly published by the world-class publishers Palgrave Macmillan and Springer, the Sustainable Development Goals series is Springer Nature's inaugural cross-imprint book series that addresses and supports the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The series fosters comprehensive research focused on global targets and endeavors to address some of society's greatest challenges. No Truth Without Beauty contributes to SDG 5 on gender equality. The book has received many accolades from individual readers and renowned institutions alike. You can find it for purchase on Amazon and Google Reads. And Leena El-Ali wanted to make it available to a maximum of people through open access. She'll explain why shortly. You can download the PDF from Springer's website or get it straight to your Kindle from Amazon. All links are included in the description box below this video. The No Truth Without Beauty Discovery series is a series of 4 episodes that will air every Saturday during the month of Ramadan at 6 p.m. GMT. Let's hear from Leena El-Ali herself introduce the book and the Discovery series. Why did you write No Truth Without Beauty?
Well, there are so many claims out there about women and Islam. And some of them are a little bit surprising and, if not shocking, frankly, to some of us who believe in a beautiful and a just God, as I do. And so I wanted to go back to basics, as it were, and find out what came from the Qur'an and what didn't, to establish a solid foundation for the exercise. And in the case of things that didn't come from the Qur'an, from other sources, well, what are those other sources? Are they credible sources? For example, did they come directly from the Prophet Muhammad himself? Or did they come from other sources? And are those other sources legitimate, or are they equally legitimate?
How did you approach the writing process?
A large part of the exercise was actually to consolidate and synthesize the amazing work that is already out there on women's issues and Islam, work by some extraordinary scholars, a lot of them contemporary ones, some have left us now. Because the information is there to a large extent, but it seemed to me to be a little bit diffuse and not very easy to build upon or to process. For a couple of reasons. I mean, firstly, most of these works are written for academia, and not everybody is equipped to find them, delve into them, etc. Because also, you know, it requires quite a commitment of time to sort of process through everything. And so in the process of gathering this information though, and organizing it, just to be clear and transparent, I did have some new insights of my own, in other words. And I make it very clear in the book when, you know, certain views or analysis is coming from me, as opposed to from previously published scholars. So in the process of gathering the information, of doing the research and gathering the information, I ended up actually covering a lot more topics relating to women than I expected. Because I found actually that there were a total of 17 claims regarding women in Islam that needed to be discussed. Claims for which I found evidence in the Qur'an that either clarified them or corrected them. So it ended up really being a much more comprehensive effort than I initially had expected it to be.
Who was it written for?
My primary audience really was people who are born in this faith, like myself, who might have a need for answers because of, all of the, pretty unattractive things that we have been hearing about Islam over the last couple of decades in particular, and all of the terrible things that have been done in its name. I was very aware that a lot of people born in the faith have become very confused, if not depressed, about it all. Some people have become angry, and anger is often expressed in not very constructive ways. And others have been, frankly, just completely, they've been put off of the religion into which they were born. And I felt that this information would be helpful in one way or another for especially young people. The other audience, though, that I had in mind was people who are from other backgrounds, who were not born into this faith, but who are interested in this topic, either for personal reasons, because they have Muslim friends or whatnot, or simply because of the work that they do. They travel around, they encounter people, they're developing policies and programs on the socioeconomic or socio-political front, etc. I thought it would be helpful for them also as they went about their work. So I tried to organize the information and present it in as user-friendly a way as possible. And I also tried to use language that was as accessible as possible, because I was mindful of both kinds of audiences, or an audience that would be familiar with the issues and an audience that might not be as familiar. And one of the things I tried to do is to make connect the dots as they came up naturally with things said in the Qur'an and other faith traditions. And I'll just give one example here. For example, when I present a verse from a chapter in the Qur'an, which is chapter 5, called in Arabic Al-Ma'idah, which in English is translated as the banquet or the feast. I point out in brackets that this is a reference to the Last Supper, this Last Supper that Christ had with his disciples, because that incident is described actually in the Quran, in that chapter, which takes its name after it. At the time I started to write this book, I had spent about 15 years working in different countries throughout South Asia, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, North Africa, on peace-building programs, conflict resolution programs. And during the course of my travels, I encountered a lot of misperceptions, shall we say, about what Islam or the Quran has to say about women, because people assume everything comes from the Quran when something is called Islamic, right? So this is part of the issue we're trying to address in this book. And what I came to realize at one point is that often people in different communities, men and women, are held back from embracing perfectly sensible, perfectly beneficial initiatives for the benefit of their societies or communities and the like, because of guilt, because they're not sure if going along with an initiative or participating in it is actually, is all right from a religious point of view. So they have this underlying guilt, and all it takes is uncertainty about whether something is all right or not for them to not really give it their all, or to be hesitant, or not participate at all, not be a part of the solution. So I was very happy when I had this opportunity for the book to be included in that series, because then it would get into the hands of working professionals who need this information, rather than sort of be parachuting into different countries, assuming that, it could be a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. It would give them more information about the sensitivities and where things may be coming from.
What will readers learn from the book?
I hope that any reader of this book will discover, as I did, that the God of the Qur'an was a relentless advocate for women's rights. And I mean relentless. In fact, and I hope this comes through in the book, when you line up all of the things that were addressed by the Qur'an, you see a pattern that, to borrow an American term, a pattern of what we would call in America affirmative action, where the God of the Qur'an appears to be attempting to give a leg up for the marginalized of that society at the time, which was women. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is I think the reader will get a sense of where the sort of misperceptions and the myths regarding women have come from. And broadly speaking, they have come from two places. One, from patriarchal influences, from the fact that society and most societies even today tend to be somewhat patriarchal, if not very patriarchal, and they have a preference for the status quo. And so, they are inclined towards keeping things as they are and interpreting things in such a way as to keep things as they are. And the other place that some of these myths, or reason we have some of these myths, is quite simply interpretive custom. And by that I mean there are certain habits that we've fallen into when it comes to interpreting the Qur'an that have just become so absorbed into our collective psyche that we don't stop to think about them. I think the reader will come away with tools to actually help that reader restore the original messages of the Qur'an to their rightful place with regards to women. And lastly, just a fourth thing I would mention is that I really hope that any reader will find spiritual comfort. To be honest, first and foremost, from reading a fresh perspective on the Qur'an by somebody who completely believes in it and loves it and who has spent a lot of time trying to understand it. And of course, I think moral relief, because there are a lot of things that haven't sat well with many of us, things that have been assigned to the Qur'an and our religion that I think we, I and hopefully many readers will take comfort in getting clarity on.
Why did you make the book open access to all?
I started out writing this book, as I mentioned, I think earlier, to be a bridge between the scholarly works on women's issues and Islam and the average reader who may not have the time or ability or inclination to, go investigate everything themselves. So, as part of that exercise, I was conscious, as mentioned, of presenting things in a language that was more accessible, organizing things in a way that was more accessible also. But then the other part to it is to actually make the book more accessible, literally. I would hate to think that someone who really was interested in this book would not be able to get hold of it because of cost, for example. Or they may be able to buy it, but there might be some shipping and delivery issues because of where they live. And of course, most of Muslims, Muslims live in a huge number of countries all across the globe, and I did not want that to be a barrier. And for those who would like a physical copy and who can get one, it's available for purchase also. And the other thing I like about having made it open access is that it will always be there, whether one wants to buy a physical copy or download it. It's never going to run out of print, and that was very important to me.
What is the Discovery series?
The idea is to put together 4 short episodes of 15 to 20 minutes long each, that give a taste of what the book contains. This teaser is supposed to be a taster of what's to come. And in the 4 episodes that we will be releasing, recording and releasing, I hope to cover some of those 17 topics. Obviously, we can't do all of them, just to give the reader an idea of what the book contains, so that hopefully they'll be interested enough to go look into it a little bit more. So in one episode, we will talk about questions relating to the nature of women per the Quranic narrative. So what does the Quran tell us about how women were created, at creation from the beginning? So we go back to the very beginning. Another episode will deal with the socioeconomic rights and responsibilities of women according to the Quran. There are a lot of practical issues there, and these are the ones that are mostly talked about more. A third episode will deal with certain practices that have a bearing on women, some of which relates to their very persons, literally their physical bodies. And the fourth episode will deal with certain assumptions around women and with regards to their role in society.
When will it be aired?
You'll be able to see the episodes on a dedicated YouTube channel. It's called No Truth Without Beauty. Well, the first episode will air on Saturday, March the 16th of 2024 at 6 p.m. GMT. So we hit as many time zones as possible. It'll be the first Saturday of Ramadan this year. So I hope it will be a nice accompaniment to everybody who is fasting and watching, and taking this opportunity to wish everybody a wonderful Ramadan this year. I hope you will join me on the YouTube channel, No Truth Without Beauty, for these 4 episodes. I hope you will find them interesting, thought-provoking. They'll be a reason for some interesting conversations with friends and family, and that you will look further into these topics for yourselves.
Thanks for watching. Hope you'll enjoy episode 1 here on YouTube at No Truth Without Beauty on Saturday, 16 March.